I've been riding since about 1990. That was when I rode my first STP, and I took up cycling because I was a broken runner. I'm not fast, but I'm persistent. So I was a marathon runner, and so when I started cycling, it was kind of natural for me to go to distance cycling. I rode my first RAMROD in 1993, and it was memorable. It's a wonder my career didn't end with the first RAMROD, because that was the year that it snowed at Paradise. The snow wasn't sticking to the ground, but there was snow in the air, and it rained so hard from the deli back into Enumclaw that all you could do was follow the fog line. The only reason I came back the next year was that it couldn't possibly be as bad as the first year. I've ridden 22 RAMRODs. I remember my fastest time, 9:43. It's gotten a little longer. I was in a hurry that year. I knew our timing days were done, and I was young and competitive. My first really good bike was built by R&E in 1995, and I still ride that bike. And the bike is made out of a tube set that Glenn had left behind in the basement. It has the Trillium cutouts and lugs. It was built by Rob Collins. I still love it. I was the food coordinator, 96. I did that for 6 years until we left Seattle. And back then too, the club members made all of the cookies. So I baked a lot of cookies, but I was handed a recipe in 96, and this is the way we make RAMROD cookies. I think the organization improved a little bit the 6 years that I did it. We had some failed experiments, like the year that we experimented with the burritos for food stop food. That didn't go over well. People ride on bananas and potatoes, not burritos, not beans. Part of the reason I like RAMROD is because you have to be in pretty good shape. You have to do a lot of miles to get yourself in shape to be strong enough to ride RAMROD. And I like the way I feel when I'm in that kind of shape. So having RAMROD as a goal pays more dividends than just riding RAMROD. I like going out sightseeing on a bicycle. I think that's the absolute best way to go sightseeing. Also, you get to interact with the culture that you're in. So if you go riding in France, which I love because cyclists get respect in France, and you go into these little villages, and when you pull in on a bicycle, people greet you and talk to you, and you meet some really interesting locals. I have been in a lot of beautiful, mostly mountainous areas riding, and I always come back to the Northwest thinking, I'm glad I live here. I wouldn't live anywhere else on earth. It's beautiful here. And I don't mind riding by myself. I like it because I get to decide where to go and how far to go and the pace to go. But I do find that when I ride by myself, I tend to lollygag. So it's not really a training ride, it's a sightseeing ride.
It took me a while to get over. Guys always wanted to jump in and fix my flats until I realized, let them.
My experience being a female anything, it just hasn't fizzed on me that I'm treated any differently. I was a female scientist, and I never felt that I was treated any differently than a male would have been in the same position. I've always done things that have been more, you see more men doing that sort of thing. And I've never felt put down. One of the things that I have done in the past that was more male oriented was race car driving. I drove Alfa Romeo for years, but I loved driving on the racetrack, and I was pretty good at it. I could compete with the boys, and it got me some respect, not for my gender, but for my skill. My parents were also very supportive of doing things that most girls growing up wouldn't have wanted to do, like take up scuba diving when I was 14. Maybe I'm just oblivious, or maybe it's my sort of assertive personality. I gave myself permission to retire anytime once I got to 20. This year will be 23, but I have no plans to stop until I'm obliged to. I am the oldest woman on a single. There is a woman who's 3 years older than I am, who's on the back of a tandem. And so every year I'm a bridesmaid. But that's okay. I'm the oldest woman on a single. I do get comments from riders, mostly older riders, when they see my number. How old are you? And I have had a couple of comments from younger riders that I'm an inspiration. Well, good. Good. Keep on riding. It was really interesting in last year's RAMROD when it was generally known, especially among us old farts, there were 25 riders over the age of 70, and whenever a low number saw another low number at the rest stops, everybody'd get together and brag about, aren't we doing great, and you know, we're still here and keeping up with the young kids, the young kids of 50. Yeah. And we're proud of us and lucky. You know, we're all lucky. We see our friends and they're starting to fall by the wayside. I'm lucky. Keep on keeping on.